Awesome, thank you so much. Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today. My name is Victoria Rommel and I'm a Customer Success Manager with Interfolio. I'm so excited to be a part of Impact Conference and kick off this session alongside my counterpart and awesome client, Lindsay Jacobs with Case Western Reserve University. As many of us in this room know, the academic and regulatory landscape is evolving rapidly. Institutions are being asked to do more with greater accountability, transparency, and consistency, often with the same or fewer resources. One of the most common themes that I hear across campuses is the challenge of supporting diverse hiring needs across roles, while still maintaining compliance, equity, and efficiency. A core part of my role at Interfolio is helping institutions to adapt to those changes and turn complexity into something manageable and scalable. I like to describe my job as helping my clients reach their goals, not simply implementing a system, but using it thoughtfully to support real institutional needs. That is why I'm excited for you to hear from Lindsay today. Can I press on this? Lindsay serves as the Director of Faculty Affairs and Information Systems at Case Western Reserve University, and she has been a true partner in every sense of the word. Together, we have worked closely through our monthly check-ins, annual trainings, and ongoing collaboration around best practices, new use cases, and when needed, problem solving. Lindsay has also taken full advantage of the broader Interfolio landscape, becoming an expert user of the platform and all of its resources. More importantly, she has helped lead a very intentional effort at Case Western Reserve to think creatively about how faculty search could support hiring well beyond traditional faculty roles. And that is what this session is about today. On a more personal note, I recently celebrated my 1 year here at Elsevier, and Lindsay was my first ever client. It is safe to say that I have learned way more from her than she ever has from me. Watching how her team has grown, experimented, and scaled their processes over time has been incredibly rewarding, and I'm grateful that she is willing to share that journey with all of you today. Before I turn things over, oh, you know how to work that thing?
I don't.
Before I turn things over to Lindsay, I want to briefly walk you through what we'll be covering in this session, which follows the story that you will see in the slides. We'll look at an overview of Case Western Reserve University and their hiring landscape, take a look at how hiring was handled previously and the challenges that they were navigating, looking at how faculty search was implemented and then expanded to support multiple hiring types, including postdocs, research staff, and student roles. What's working well, including adoption, volume, and outcomes, feedback from actual stakeholders across the institution, key lessons learned, what would they do the same, and what would they do differently? And finally, what is next for CWRU as they continue to evolve and scale their recruitment processes? We'll also pause at a couple points for quick engagement and reflection, and then we'll leave time at the end for questions and discussion. With that, I am thrilled to turn things over to Lindsay, who will walk us through the Case Western story and share how they've built a strong case for multi-role recruitment using faculty search.
Thank you, Victoria. So today, before I get into the bulk of our presentation, I wanted to start by just explaining and introducing you all to Case Western Reserve University So we are a independent research university located in Cleveland, Ohio. We are a member of the AAU and fully accredited by the Higher Learning Commission. And we consist of 8 schools. So they're right there on the screen: arts and sciences, engineering, dental medicine, law, management, medicine, nursing, and applied social sciences. As of fall 2025, we had just over 6,500 undergraduate students, 5,800 graduate students, 1,188 board-appointed faculty, over 4,700 special faculty, and $652 million in total research funding. So last year, CWRU took a deep dive into its hiring practices, and we started with a question that we'd like to ask all of you today.
We want to take a quick temp check and see which one of you, or who in this room can empathize with what Lindsay went through. Which employee hiring process at your institution would you benefit from better standardization? Would it be staff, postdoctoral, student hires? How do you zoom?
Other or none?
Other, or are you doing just fine?
This is a poll.
I think that you guys know at this point how to use the app to take the poll. I'm not sure if is there a QR code that we need?
No.
Okay.
It's in the app. Yeah, it should be in the app.
There we go. It looks like postdoctoral and staff hiring has gotten the most, and student following in a quick third.
Well, like many of you, we at CWRU also looked at our hiring practices, and in 2025, it brought along some big changes in hiring and in higher education in general. So when we started looking at our hiring practices, we actually were surprised to find that most of our hiring was not in this traditional staff or faculty roles. In fact, 89% of our hiring at CWRU were in totally different roles than we would have thought. So what were those roles? It was mainly students, postdocs, and research associates. So at that point, staff and faculty hiring was managed through specific recruitment platforms. However, the majority of our hiring was being overlooked. So we launched Faculty Search in 2023 for faculty hiring, which had been working really well since we had launched it. But when we started looking deep into the other types of positions on campus that we were hiring and advertising for, we found that postdoc and research associates and scientists were being advertised through multiple website postings, some of which were outdated. And applications were being submitted through email. Student hiring was managed through a platform called Handshake, which some of you may be aware of. It's actually a system designed for outside employment and internships for students, not internal hiring for student jobs. In addition, we also needed to ensure at the central level that the CWRU's EEO statements and reasonable accommodation statement, as well as a new salary transparency requirement, was added to all of the postings in our university. Due to the changing federal guidelines around hiring, the Office of General Counsel also implemented a new training session that was required for all search committees. So we had to make sure that at the central level, we were catching all of the positions that were coming through. At the time, approval workflows for student positions, postdocs, and research associates were pretty much manual, consisting mainly of email approvals that got lost in the shuffle. So clearly these hiring practices lack transparency and efficiency and desperately needed standardization. So that's when I brought up the idea of why not use Interfolio Faculty Search, which we already had for faculty and was working well. Why don't we use that for these other types of hiring? These are the 5 areas we focused on for implementation: unit structure, approval workflows, data customization, user accounts, and training and support. So I'm going to go into a little bit on each one of these. So because we were now going to use Faculty Search for more than just faculty hiring, we decided to change the name of the tool to Search and Recruitment so that it would be for everyone versus just for faculty. And this was really easy to do using Interfolio's tools that they have available. We also needed a way to figure out how to separate all of these categories of hiring so that they wouldn't be combined and jumbled into one area. So what we did was we created 3 branches. We used shorter versions, but basically there were FAC for faculty, PD for postdoc, RA, RS for research associate scientist, and then ST for student. Under each of those branches, we then listed all of our 8 schools. So there would be a College of Arts and Sciences, FASC, and then under that we would list the departments. So Department of Biology, FAC. Then for postdocs, same thing, research associate and student, same thing. This is how we kind of kept those in their own categories. And these branch identifiers were really necessary because in our school, people have access to multiple of these branches. So in order to make sure it was organized, we had to have these branches. And then also for our RSS feed, which we use for our applicants, it made the most sense to kind of have them categorized in that way. We then focused on creating workflows for each hiring type. So we allowed the schools to determine the school level and department level approval workflows for each type. We worked with them really closely on that. We also had a requirement at the central level, like I had mentioned earlier, that the Office of General Counsel, they needed to not only know who the search committee members were for that training, that required training, but they also had to review the job descriptions to make sure all the legal requirements were being met. So we added steps for them in each workflow. And then we also didn't have really any central oversight capabilities prior to implementing this, so that really helped us in being able to see what was out there and what we were actually hiring at the university. Next, we worked with the offices that managed postdoc, research associate, and student hiring to determine what data they needed to collect from applicants. So we, at the central level, kept the eligibility to work in the U.S. form. We require that for every single position at the university. But with the postdoc office and student employment office, they were looking for different ways to collect data, different data points. And so we created specific applicant forms for each of those categories. And we asked in our instructions for the staff to add those forms to each of the positions that they create. Along with adding all of these different hiring categories came lots of new users. So we really needed a way to organize user accounts and make sure that they were authorized and permitted to actually post those types of positions. So at CWRU, what we did was we created a Google form And I manage that in the Central Faculty Affairs office, and those Google requests come to me. It basically asks the same thing that every user or the new user page in Interfolio asks. So it asks name, IDs, email, and then what type of positions you need to post and under what area. So if it was the College of Arts and Sciences students, they would request that, and I would give them that access. What I did do was I then connected with each school's dean's office or who I knew was like overseeing those areas to make sure that those individuals should have that access, because I didn't want to give someone access to post something that really shouldn't have that access. So it really helped to kind of manage it in one level versus like having each of the different hiring areas manage that. Next, we focused on training and support because now we have hundreds and hundreds of users. And what we did was Interfolio, and specifically Victoria, conducted 2 Zoom training sessions. We posted one of those online. We also created instructional guides for each category of hiring. And each time someone would receive access to post positions, I would then send them an email and I would post the exact instructions for that type to that email so that they would be able to reference that easily. We also created a universal email at CASE, so we just say CWRU-interfolio@case.edu, and those emails come to me directly. So if anyone on campus has questions, they can start with one person, me. I'm answering most of those, or I'm filtering them to the correct areas, and they can answer them. We thought that would be really helpful. It has been used quite a bit, so that was a really cool thing to see. And next, how it's working at CWRU. So since we launched this in August 2025, we have had 46 postdoc positions posted, 39 research associate or scientist positions posted, 117 student employee positions, and these comprise 80% of our total postings in Interfolio. So as you can see, it was really needed at CWRU for a platform to exist for these types of hiring. There have been almost 2,000 postdoc research associate and student applicants since we launched this, and we've added over 160 new administrative staff users, and that was about a month ago. I can tell you we've added quite a few more than that since then. So what is CWRU saying? I'm not going to read the quotes. You can read those, but I'll give you a summary of them. Offices at the central level, like the Provost's office and General Counsel, they really like the transparency that Interfolio provides to ensure that the university is in compliance with all of these legal and federal mandates. And then the offices that manage postdoc and research associate hiring, they really like the efficiency and standardization that Interfolio has brought to their hiring processes. The Office of Student Employment has, I will say, been the most reluctant to adopt Interfolio. So they're still adjusting to using it. But the actual departments who are posting those positions, I have heard that they really like having that workflow option, because Handshake didn't have that at all. It was pretty much if you posted a position, it would get posted. There was no oversight by the finance area in the schools or really anyone before those positions got posted. We learned a lot of lessons along the way. Thought I'd share some of those with you. You all probably know this from your experience in higher education, but change is hard, and some will be resistant. So this isn't a new idea, but it is something you need to take into consideration when making process changes like this. we had the benefit of central administration kind of mandating this change, which top down, it works a lot easier. But we still had to make the case that this would be beneficial to all of those areas that were hiring these positions. We also learned that with more users comes more potential for errors. So I was quickly seeing that if staff had access to more than one branch, say they had access to faculty and postdoc positions were then being posted under the faculty branch and vice versa. I was even seeing some student positions being posted under the faculty branch. This was causing a major impact because it was limiting the visibility for those positions on our RSS feed for students. Specifically, we were finding that the hardest to overcome. And so what I did to fix that was I put myself as a first step for every single position that gets posted, which yes, it's a lot, but my role is pretty minimal in that. I get the position to approve, and I look and I make sure that the position type and the branch is correct, and then I move it forward. So it stops with me before it gets any further. And I found that to be really helpful because I was able to catch things before they were getting posted versus having to ask people to remove the posting and then recreate it. So that was really helpful to learn. We also learned that descriptive position titles are really necessary. So I still have units who are submitting positions called assistant professor or student worker. Those are really non-descriptive in my opinion. And so if someone's searching our RSS feed and we have like 30, 40, 50, 80 positions, they're really not going to know what area those are in. So we encourage our staff to say like assistant professor of English, postdoc scholar of biochemistry, student worker in the graduate studies office, things like that make it a little bit more descriptive. And the last thing I learned, and probably the biggest thing, is that I think working with Victoria, we talked and we think that this can be really scalable at other institutions, which is kind of why we wanted to present it to all of you today. When I first started out looking for a solution to this issue that we were having of how are we going to, centralize and look at all of these position hiring types that we had at CWRU, I actually asked Victoria, can you connect me with another client out in the Interfolio world that does this? And she talked to all of her other CSMs and no one was really doing it. And so we kind of had to start from scratch. We did get, I think, one other school who might have been using it for postdocs, so that was helpful to have that conversation. But what we were looking to do, no one was really doing yet. So we do think it can be scalable if your institution is looking for other, platforms for hiring. I'm gonna now, I think that's, what's next for CWRU? Sorry, I forgot about that. So we have several Interfolio related projects coming up. Some of them are faculty search related, some of them are RPT related. The first one is the student employment management of this process. So as I had said before, they're a little reluctant to this. They've definitely, they're on board, but they are a little reluctant. They have a little bit of a resource issue in their office, so there's not as much help that they're getting with this. But currently, I oversee all of the creation of the student postings. I'm hoping I can transition that to the Office of Student Employment over the summer. Also, we're planning to use faculty search for our special faculty hiring. So for adjuncts, clinical, visiting, other part-time faculty, right now all of our 8 schools are doing completely different things. We just did like a very short survey about this, and we found out that a lot of these are, word of mouth. Hey, we have a class to teach. You have expertise in this area. Can you teach it? Well, right now with all of the federal mandates and guidelines around hiring, we can't really do that anymore. So we really need a platform that we're able to centrally manage. And so we're going to start rolling that out. It's going to be a huge cultural shift, we know. So we're going to be rolling that out slowly. And then the postdoc appointment process, this is going to be going from an internal system on campus to RPT. We know the RPT is a workflow tool, and that's what we really needed for the postdoc appointment process. So we thought, if we can do it for faculty, why can't we do it for postdocs? So we're going to be transitioning that later in the fall, and hopefully that will be as successful as we are hoping. So what we did at CWRU with faculty search does show that Interfolio's products can be utilized beyond what they were designed for if you start thinking outside of the box. So with that, we'll open for questions.